welcome back. You're listening to Houston Real Estate Radio. I'm your host, Shannon Register, and every week we bring you news and information you can use on your next real estate transaction. If you've got a real estate question, you can call us 281-882-8088, and we'll be happy to answer your real estate questions right here on the air every Sunday between 11 and noon. This segment, we are going to be talking about some curb appeal and landscape for spring, because if you're selling a home, that is so important. And if you're going to stay in your home, you want to maintain it and keep it looking great. All of our homeowners associations around the Houston area really like it when you keep your home looking really nice. We are live remote broadcasting today from the 13th Annual Spring Home and Garden Show out at the Woodlands Waterway Marriott. We'd love for you to come by and see us over here at the broadcast booth. We have some goodies to give away, and you know, we are talking about a lot of different things today. We're talking about appliances and landscape and lots of things, but I tell you what, whatever you need for your home, come out here and get ideas. You can get so many ideas just walking around the show today, seeing product displays, what's out, what's new, what's hot for spring, lots of things going on out here, so I hope you'll stop by. This segment, I'm interviewing Mark Bowen, and Mark is the general manager of Nature's Way Resources. He's a horticulturist and a landscape designer, and he's got a book out. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So tell me about the book that you have.
Sure. I've written 3 books. One of the ones we're going to give away today is my first book, Habitat Gardening for Houston and Southeast Texas, and it features native plants that are tried and true that work very well in this area. Mm-hmm. I've also written one by the name of Naturalistic Landscaping for the Gulf Coast and the Bioplanting Guide, and I brought a book here called Home Landscaping Texas. It's all about garden designs. I was one of the design contributors.
So Houston is a big area. Is there a difference between people who live in the Woodlands versus people who live in Pearland as far as what kind of plants you need to buy for your home?
Without a doubt. Up in the Woodlands, we're in the Piney Woods region. Mm-hmm. In Pearland, once upon a time, that was all tallgrass prairie. So the areas are very different in terms of what grows well, mm-hmm. and then also what the soils are like. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things you're seeing more and more these days, that people are tuning in and trying to make sure that whatever they add to their landscapes will be long-term and sustainable and a good investment.
Right. You know, I noticed the builders are really doing that as well. Builders and developers, they're keeping as much of the local landscape when they put in new housing communities. They're keeping as much of the local landscape in there that they can, and it really makes a difference. It really makes the housing area look native. I like that.
We see that quite a bit these days, and the Woodlands was one of the pioneer areas for what they call the building envelope concept, where they would try to keep as much of the beautiful nature around the homes, as possible, mm-hmm. and then so you didn't lose that value and then have to replace it.
So right now, for people who want to sell their house this spring, what should they be doing right now to get their yard looking good? You want a nice green yard.
Exactly. Of course, this is a great time to put down a good slow release organic fertilizer right now, and then when it'll start doing its thing and kicking in. So when the grass in about 2 or 3 weeks starts actively growing, mm-hmm. it will have the nutrients to sustain the growth.
When you go to Lowe's, Home Depot, all these places, they all sell this kind of stuff. Is there one that you recommend, or are they all about the same? Or is there something you need to look for?
Sure. The one that we recommend is it's called Microlife. It's a 624. And it's made by a local company. It's one that's, it's really, you can't go wrong with it. It's slow release, you can't burn, and it helps get the grass healthier, which also helps choke out any weeds that might be in the lawn, that type of thing. So that's one of the big things right now is fertilize, and then people are going in and touching up their beds, mm-hmm. maybe, getting the weeds out, putting some flowers in, and then putting some mulch down. So we're seeing a lot of people have the spring fever right now. We've got a little cold weather, and they're ready to do their spring cleanups.
Is it too early, or is it okay to get started now? We don't have any more freezes?
I think after this week, we should be, and maybe I think it's supposed to rain, Sunday and Monday, and then I think it'll be on. Okay. Everybody's going to be dying to get those plants in the ground.
So I know, it's so hard when you look at your flower beds, and you just, where do you start? Do you start with the mulch? Do you start with the flowers? Do you start with figuring out the whole design concept before you even go buy anything? Where do you start?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, normally we'll encourage people to start from the foundation of their house and work outward. Most people initially are just thinking curb appeal, mm-hmm. but when people they always say you have to consider,
because you don't necessarily see what's against the foundation. You see what is the outermost edge.
Right. And most people think color first, but mm-hmm. what we always try to counsel people is to think keep in mind that what curb appeal has to do with people are driving by, say 30 miles an hour, what you're going to see. Color does catch your eye, but what also catches your eye is anything that's a real liability. Like if there's the lawn, part of the lawn is dyed, or there's trees scratching the house, or the landscape's too cluttered and the house doesn't look friendly. So we encourage people to deal with their liability issues first.
If you've got a tree that's touching the house, or trees that have overgrown and gotten bushy, who do you recommend to come and cut those back and get them tamed without maiming them?
Right. We probably our first recommendation. There's a local company called Results, and they're really good about not overdoing it. You see a lot of trees out there where people have really butchered them.
Right. You don't want that.
It's not good for the trees. And
you just want to shape it.
Right. If you have branches that are scratching the house, that's not good. You know, the canopy needs to be raised a little bit. If you have branches that are crossing or they're dangerous in some way at risk of falling, those need to be removed. But otherwise, these days, a lot of the arborists are trying to help the trees have a more natural appearance that's very elegant.
Well, we're out here in the Woodlands, so let's talk about some of the plants that are native to the Woodlands that people out here on the northwest side of Houston should be looking at, because it's so tempting to go in and buy those little flowers that are going to just bake here in a few months, or here in another month. They're going to start baking and dying. So what are some of those things that you can really go in and buy that are going to be hardy through the summer months, late spring and summer?
That's a great question, and one of the trends that's going on these days is more and more people are trying to add what we call perennial color, where they can add it. It's going to bloom off and on during the year, and they'll have a succession of color, and it's an ongoing good investment, a long-term investment.
Right.
And so we see a lot of that. And so there are some great natives, like Indian blanket, for example, is one. It grows wild in the area, but it's very beautiful. It attracts butterflies. Some of the verbenas and lantanas are very colorful. Also great additions. And there are many cultivars out now where they're kind of offshoots of the natives that are still have almost as tough as the natives, and some of them are a little bit more showy.
And real quick, because we're coming up on a break, but what about things to avoid with your landscaping?
One of the things to avoid would be boxing in the house too much. We're trying to get away from what they used to call the plant mustache, where everything's just right up on the house. And there's like maybe too large shrubs. So these days we want things to be open and friendly and functional.
All right, very good. Functional meaning you can walk around in your landscape.
Exactly, and enjoy it. And let it breathe a little bit. Very
good. All right, Mark Bowen, he's the general manager of Nature's Way Resources. What's y'all's website?
www.natureswayresources.com.
natureswayresources.com. Lots of great information, and you can hear him speaking out here at the Woodlands Marriott this weekend, the Woodlands Waterway Marriott. We are at the 13th annual Spring Home and Garden Show, and they've got a great turnout. If you want ideas for what to do to your house this spring, come on out. There's lots of ideas out here, lots of products to see, lots of things to do. Come on out and join us. You can even adopt a pet. The Humane Society's out here. We'll be right back here on Houston Real Estate Radio.